Friends, we're going to start working on Square One art today. We are going to use our drawing and watercoloring skills to create a piece of artwork on some special paper. This paper gets turned into Square One, and the money raised from the fundraiser goes towards our PTO. While we're looking at some of the samples of things that you can purchase with your artwork, you can notice that there are pieces of artwork with lots of color. There's very little white space. And all the teeny tiny details, we will save those for another project because they get lost when the artwork gets shrunk down. So what we're looking for is big, bold, bright artwork. For everyone that completes the Square One artwork, you will get a sheet of stickers with your artwork on it. And to get those big, bold, bright colors, we're going to use things like Mr. Sketch markers and Sharpies, crayons, and oil pastels. You're looking at some examples of things that you can create on your Square One artwork, and you're going to notice some of these things are outlined in Sharpie and filled in with watercolor, or there might be Sharpie and oil pastels and watercolor. Here you're looking at Sharpie and Mr. Sketch marker that has been diluted with a little bit of water. And this is inspired by Cassie Stevens and Laura Geller, big bold flowers with crayon. We've worked on Laurel Birch cats, and if you're not a cat person, you can use dogs. We've done turtles with oil pastels and watercolors. We've done fishbowl scapes with just using shapes to guide our drawings. We've done under the sea artwork with oil pastels and watercolors. If you're a friend that doesn't feel confident drawing, you can use just patterns and shapes and colors, or use those patterns and shapes and colors with animals that you like, or anything that really sparks an interest in you is what I want you to be drawing. But you're looking at things that are big, and little teeny tiny details won't get lost. Now, the two studios that we're using to create our Square One artwork are drawing materials and watercolors from our painting studio. And I want you to be thinking about some of those watercolor skills that we worked on last week. You can look back in your sketchbook and take a look at some of the details and skills that you liked. Maybe you're going to use a background, you'll use the wet on wet technique, or maybe you'll blend or wash a background. Or maybe you'll just use brush skills to create a pattern. And once you've created that pattern on your paper, you can trace a shape with black oil pastel. Now, this oil pastel has been smudged so that it has shadow. You can use a Sharpie and fill in with watercolors. Again, just be that abstract artist with shapes and patterns and colors. And these have been created with beautiful oil pastels and watercolors. Here you see some wet on wet with spattered, and this is outlined in Sharpie. And one of my friends drew this amazing snake, but he was so teeny tiny that I said, make him a lot bigger. And here we're gonna show you just really quickly what it looks like when you use oil pastels to make an owl. And you see that I just drew some circles, and I'm filling in very quickly with some oil pastels, just using lines. So it kind of looks like a pom-pom or a firework, and the letter U, and just filling in. And what ends up happening is hopefully you believe that those are feathers. Fill it in, use lots and lots of color. Right now I'm just using cool colors on here. And remember, I just started with 3 circles to make the body and the 2 eyes. And I'm adding some wings, but you don't have to. And nobody has to do an owl. It's fun to use white. White will blend those colors together. I'm using white so that I can get a beak on there, a little bit more white, and then some more of that oil pastel. I love making eyes, big black circles, and just a little bit of white. There you go, light reflection. I don't want a floating owl, so I'm going to put him on a perch him there on a branch. Put some texture on my branch. His tail's behind my branch there. And when I'm done filling in with a little bit more lines, I'm gonna go ahead and wash him and the background with watercolor. So I'm gonna get my brush nice and wet, keeping my bristles together, swirl, 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 scrape, 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 and filling in all that space, just washing over him with some blue watercolor. Notice that my bristles stay together, and I am just getting my brush nice and wet and filling the background. If you do a color you don't like, remember you can blot it, or you can go ahead and blend some of those colors. That water will really help you. Now that I know my owl's blue, I'm going to use a contrasting color when I fill in that background. So I don't know, what do you think would be a good color to fill the background in if he's blue? What is the color across the color wheel? Or maybe you want to stay cool and stay with the cool colors. See how I'm just using the water, and I'm using that water and the pigments, and I'm just blending and washing that paper and really filling it in, keeping my bristles together. My brush is nice and wet. It's not scratchy. I'm filling in that background. Now this is just one idea. And here I'm washing in another color so they blend a little bit. This is just one idea. There are plenty of other things that you can use for your square one art. I think the biggest takeaway is that I want this to be your self-expression and art that represents you.